So emotions are contagious. I imagine that feels familiar to most people, and I imagine you can make up what that means. But we're going to talk just a little bit about the brain and how it's creating contagious emotions. We're going to have some experiences of emotions and contagious emotions, and you'll have a little interactive activity where you'll talk to one another about how might you use this information. Why do you care? You know, what's the point of talking about contagions, emotional contagions? And then we'll talk a little bit about Rewired to Relate. Rewired to Relate is a program we offer that's about brain training for working well with others and helpful to know about contagious emotions. And it's very central to that program. Right, here we go. A definition. If you care to read it, I'll give you a short version in just a moment. This is more of an official definition. Emotional contagion refers to the human tendency to automatically mimic and synchronize facial expressions, vocalizations, postures, and movements with those of another person and consequently converge emotionally with them. In other words, we copy people, we copy their physicality so we can feel what they feel. Why do we do this? It's for empathy and being attuned to others. We are doing this all the time to know how people feel. I've noticed, there's rapport building, something I've taught in a program in the past. Rapport building, if you want to build rapport with someone, you actually force yourself to mimic their body posture. A lot of us will do this naturally. A lot of you probably do this naturally. When you're talking to someone you like or you're relating to them, you might just mimic something unconsciously. Somebody might notice, wow, you look like you're mirror images of one another. But even if you don't like someone, you can encourage yourself, to just copy what they're doing, and it helps you tap into their mood because our body informs our brain, and the brain informs those, creates chemicals, and the chemicals create our feelings. And it's pretty consistent across humans. If we all scowl, everybody put a scowl on your face. I can see some of you, so put a scowl on your face. And what's it make you feel? Happy to hear voices or chat. What's it make you feel when you do that? For some, it might be anger, for some, concern. It might be a little range of emotions. And I learned from somebody recently, I think it was somebody who had the practical experience, I'm not sure, maybe I read it somewhere, that if you Botox your forehead and you don't get the opportunity to scrunch your forehead, you actually do lose some empathy with others because you can't do that. You don't naturally, you're not, I see Jeanette nodding. You've read that too, have you, Jeanette?
Botox thing. Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah. And so you lose some of the empathy because you're losing some of those facial muscles, at least temporarily while it's in effect. And you actually can't tune into people in that way that most of us do when we're not Botoxed.
And also
So,
wear masks. When you wear the masks on the mouth, you have to with your eyes.
Yes, you have to tune into eyes rather than mouth and facial, the lower facial features.
Yeah.
So we have, just this bit. And if you're Botoxed and masked, you really have a tough time having those emotional communication.
A Botox mask. Botox mask.
Combo. Yeah. A Botox. So, so emotional contagion. Why do we care? Why do we care that this is happening? Well, we see that we can like it and we can tune into other people one-to-one or even in a group. But what's happening in a group is you get something called group emotion. This is how cultures can play out, or group think certainly can play out as people start. You think of people at a sporting event and they're all cheering. And if you do this, so we got a scowl on our face, and if you do this and really put your, come on, let's to other people. I can see Vicky, Kristen, come on, try it. If you can do this, it actually thinks, and you allow yourself to go with the body feeling, you actually will feel something because of that. Either happier. Vicky, what do you feel, if you don't mind coming off of mute? What do you feel when you do that?
Yeah, I felt happier, a bit more alive, more
Happier,
energized.
alive, yeah.
Yeah.
So if everyone was to do that together, like at a sporting event, people really gel together. They, it starts to build some group think because they're all doing the same thing, training, informing their brain in the same way, and they start feeling the same. And it's very contagious. I'm sure you've been in an event like that, or at least seen it, where it spreads, right? So there's something called group emotion, which is about the group's moods, their emotions, their traits, how they behave. This happens in workplaces all the time. Slightly harder, I believe, over in a virtual setting, but certainly in a workplace setting where people are together, we can have emotions spread around a group quite quickly. Yeah, anybody have an experience of that anybody could share briefly?
I have been teaching psychology and about Hitler because of his leadership. It was not leadership, but people did how he did. And you can also see on Facebook, if somebody yell, anybody will yell.
Yeah. It's happening a lot in social media. It's happening a lot. Being American, I see it happening a lot in American situations at the moment. It's so easy to get groups of people together and rise up against, and that spreads fear. Now there's some other material I was reading and conversations I was having. Like, I don't think the neuroscientists really know all of the mechanisms that create this this back and forth. Certainly, there's the body posture. Material I was reading and conversations. I'm getting an echo. Frodo, I don't know if you can help, but I'm getting an echo of me. Certainly, there's the body posture. Like a time delayed echo. There's certainly the body posture that changes the brain, that creates chemicals. There's also things that happen in between people, and those are called mirror neurons. And what happens there is if you are watching someone, you are not doing what they're doing, but you're watching someone. Let's say you watch someone play tennis and you're really involved in the game. Your motor neurons, your motor cortex, will be activated in the same way that a tennis player's motor neurons will be activated. So your arm swing, you might actually be imagining yourself making an arm swing or a back swing or a serve or running. The motor cortex is mimicking what the others are doing. So that just happens automatically. That's just how, as social creatures, they measure it in apes and watch it all the time. This one's eating a banana, and the same reward network lights up around that would be lit up if the monkey was actually eating the same banana, but also the motor cortex of chewing lighting up, which I think is fascinating. But there's been a lot of debate about, is it really more mirror neurons? Is there something else going on? There was something else about, is there some low level odor sensory picking, function going on? Are we picking up the smell of fear from one another? Because fear is quite contagious quite quickly. And of course, dogs can smell fear. Do we have some low level mechanisms like that going on where we're not conscious of it, but there is some low level and we can just pick it up? When you walk into a room and people have been fighting or arguing with one another, that happens. There's something in the air. You can feel it or perhaps smell it. There's some kind of other something we pick up. So many mechanisms at play. Neuroscientists, I believe, are, at least not in what I've read recently, are completely settled on all the ways that happens. Let's play a little bit more. I had you do a little this and a scowl, but we're going to do a little bit more so we can play with mirror neurons and mimicking. Smell it. There's some kind. So as somebody's audio on, Gail, I've just muted you. As you look at the following pictures, so I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, and I invite you to actually mimic what they're doing and see what happens. Okay, you can turn your video off if you don't want others to see you do this. I know there's a few people on video. So let's play. Let's get started. Here's the first picture. If you actually mimic what they're doing, it might make you yawn. It makes me yawn. This has been, yawning has been documented a lot. Very easy if one person yawns. It so easily happens to others. It also happens across species. You can watch your dog yawn and start yawning yourself. I have a fun memory of being at an aquarium, the Monterey Aquarium in California, with these big, huge 5-meter tall aquariums, super huge. And there was this grouper, and groupers have really big mouths. And the grouper was just going around doing its fish thing, opening his mouth wide. And my friend I was with, he was watching this and he started yawning. It was just a mimicry of what the grouper was doing, because that's what we do. Okay, so that was a yawning. Now the next one, this one is a little more intense. And I'm going to invite you to mimic this guy and imagine that you're doing this for the sake of understanding what he's feeling in what he's doing. So here we go. It's a little more intense. As you copy that facial gesture or that facial expression, what do you feel? I'd love some chats in the chat box or verbal if you want to.
Tension,
Tension,
angry,
tension, anger, stress.
Fear.
Sorry, Roger.
Defiance.
Deirdre, what was that?
Defiance.
Defiance. And Roger, what was it you had said?
I thought fear.
Fear.
I thought fear and anxiety, yeah.
So take a breath, let go of that. I have another picture that's coming up, which is a little more joyful. So just want to let your any stress chemicals that you have from mimicking that man. And here we go. Let's try mimicking this one. How can you not smile in response to that? That's amazing look of joy. Yeah. The videos that I can see, I see a lot of smiles. Yeah.
But
What do you feel?
Is she smiling?
Say it again, Jutta.
Is she smiling?
Is she smiling?
Maybe pretension.
Who knows? It sure looks, yeah. So, and it's what we pick up, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe she's not, but in my eyes, it looks like it, and that's what I reflect back in my brain. Maybe others of you reflect something else back. Okay. Next, I have a video. It's a video you might have seen before, and I am hoping I still have all of my settings right. So this is a video. It's a little over a minute. It's a video of a train ride and a rather fun experience. So let's see. And Frodo, will you tell me if the sound doesn't come through? Or somebody tell me if the sound does not come through. Can you hear? So, what did you experience?
Yeah, made you laugh.
Made you laugh. Hard to not, huh? I'm trying to get
I
some.
remember a fairground thing where you pushed a penny into a box, and there was the laughing man inside a glass container, and he was a puppet, and he just laughed and laughed and laughed, and it made you laugh. I wonder whether anybody else is old enough to remember the laughing man amusement.
I don't think I ever experienced one of those.
You're too young.
We should all have those in our homes.
We should.
Turn on the laughing man and just have a
Yeah.
little stress relief. I mean, laughter and positivity is so good for us. It's so good for the brain. It creates stability and does away with stress. It's almost as good as exercise, from what I understand.
That was really infectious. You know, you saw the infectious laughter.
Yeah. Thanks. Nice to have your video on, Gail. Good to see you.
Yeah, sorry, I got everything got confused because I couldn't get in to the webinar, and then I had double things going on, so I had to go away and come back again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here you are. That's great. So, so there's some questions for you. How can you be contagious? How can you be an emotional contagion for yourself and for people around you, people you live with, people you work with, your neighbors, your friends? What would you do? Like the laughing man on the train. What could you do like that? Or other ideas, positivity in emails, or maybe you want to create a wake-up call. You know, maybe it isn't just about positivity, but you're with a group and you want to say, hey, folks, there's an environmental disaster going on, or there's a democracy disaster going on. You know, there's like some kind of thing. I notice when I'm with my siblings, who are all in California, we don't talk about anything but pleasant things, which is nice, except when I want to have a wake-up call to them. So, you know, it's a choice that I make. Go with the positivity or go with something else. I keep going with the positivity. Long story. I don't think I'm going to make a difference. Sadly. Gosh, that's a little too much sharing. Anyone else? What could you do? How might you consciously use emotional contagions? For either, you know, waking people up to something that's going on, or for creating positivity and laughter, or stability, or calm. Anybody have any ideas?
Probably
Lori,
sometimes highlighting some of the small pleasures in life. So kind of nature, something which is happening around us, which is quite nice, and just drawing it to the front of attention.
Yes.
Can
So
make
pointing
a
people's
difference.
attention. Yeah. Thanks, Rashmi. Somebody else was going to say something. Gail, is that you?
Well, there were two things. One just with maybe neighbors that you're, you know, that are living in your building or directly around you, just maybe even sharing some food or something that you've made can be very, you know, can create positivity. But the other thing I find that just when I walk down the road, I may not necessarily know people, but I consciously smile at people to grab their, you know, eye contact.
Yeah.
And I kind of find that if someone does that with me, then it naturally changes. You know, I find it uplifting and find it's a nice connection. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Walking down the street, the impact we can have on others. And Ray Talon is saying, I dance like no one is watching every morning to a joy song that someone else selected. Share it on social media. And Kuksal is saying, reflect on what it is you put out as much as, putting out as, I'm not reading that right. Putting out some powerful emotions yourself. Yeah, so a couple different ideas on chat. Choosing not to bring work issues home. Yes, you know, it's so easy to, especially if they're tricky situations, we can focus on those all the time, focus on the bad news, big news, you know. If we keep doing that, that's what we keep focusing on. That's what our partner focuses on. That's the emotions we create. Yeah. So what I'd like you to do you're going to be in a breakout room. Those of you who are new to my webinars, we always have a breakout room because everyone enjoys that so much. Mostly we have coaches here who love to connect with other coaches or like-minded people, even if you're not a coach. Everyone's welcome, of course. And the conversation that you're going to be having is a 12-minute conversation. So you'll talk about what happened when you mimicked the pictures and when you saw the video. And then have this conversation about how could you use emotional contagions. So is it about pointing attention, like Rashmi was saying, or smiling at people on the street, or positivity in emails that you write or voicemails that you leave, even getting yourself to smile when you leave a voicemail, even though no one can hear you. I've heard people talk about that. I make sure I smile when I leave a voicemail because you can hear it in people's voice, and it has your message sound much more pleasant, and that conveys also. So I hadn't talked about auditory before, but that conveys through our voices as well. So we're setting you up in groups of 3 to 4 people, and off you go for 12 minutes. Have a great conversation. We'll talk to you when you come back. Everyone coming back? Everyone back in this room. Okay, fantastic. I'd love to hear some thoughts. How could you use emotional contagions?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what we did, if I may. Is Carol, can I see her?
Yes.
Well, should I tell the story, Carol, or do you want to?
No, you tell it.
Carol does something that is fantastic. And we're all over the globe, but we're all wearing face masks, of course. Carol, behind her face mask, smiles at everybody with no inhibition at all, because you can. It's not weird if you've got a face mask, and she smiles at everybody she passes, and it makes her feel fantastic. So we're going to have an experiment tomorrow where we all pull our tongue out at people behind our face masks. How that makes us feel. But I was inspired by Carol's experiment. Have a face mask and smile with no inhibition whatsoever and make yourself feel great.
That's great. Wonderful. And I bet some people pick it up.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Even from the eyes.
The eyes.
Pick it up. Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah. What are some other ways you can use emotional contagion? Intentionally.
If you want to know something about a situation, back to the terror attack in Paris, I went to Paris for 1 week, and I was going to visit this Charlie Hebdo to find out how the feeling were in Paris. And it was very, very sad, and I just had to look at them and recognize the feeling. And I just wrote a book at that time, and this year I was in another book with some of the persons from that Charlie Hebdo, and to be in a room here in Denmark with 10 other authors, people who has been attacked in terror, I recognized that feeling, and I recognize it now also when I think about it, and I think it's a way that you are common about a thing. And also this corona thing here, I think in 20 years we will all recognize how the feeling is, because we don't know what to do, just to wait.
Yeah, feelings, there is something about when our memories are stored with, our experiential memories are stored with our feelings. So you're tapping into another element here of, we have an experience, we might pick it up from somebody else, and our experience of that person in that state is stored with the emotions, and a year later, 10 years later, we can recall that, and the emotions will be as they were when we last experienced it. We can also change those, because as we recall that thing, and we might make the emotions even bigger. Wow, that was really a thing, and the next time we recall it, we make it bigger and bigger. And sometimes we can over exaggerate, or we can tampen down feelings because of that dynamic. That's something to remember as well, as our memories are stored, our experiences are stored with emotions. Anybody have any other ideas how you're going to intentionally use contagious emotions?
Emotional contagions, I think, are very effective in group coaching situations. I've certainly seen that and used it as well in terms of encouraging people, because when people are sort of celebrating something or acknowledging something and they're getting positive feedback from it, and encourages other people to do the same. And that sort of becomes kind of an elevating activity for people.
Right. Yeah. So if you start them off on the right track, then they will keep going around. Yeah. Great.
Also,
In our group too, it was Vicky who made this comment. An emoji speaks 1,000 words. And actually, it's sort of testament to the fact that a smiling face really substitutes for a human smiling face. You see a smiling face emoji and it conveys the emotion.
Yeah.
I think that was your thought, Vicky.
Yeah. I was
And,
coaching somebody who had discovered emojis. I think it was right after lockdown. I'm using emojis everywhere. She was so excited. It was beautiful. Yeah. Gail, I think you were going to say.
yeah, the other
Yes.
thing was, because I work quite a lot with embodiment, and you know, it's quite amazing when you have a group, for example, and someone embodies, you know, an emotion, for, you know, just as an example, through their actions, you know, and then when other people in the group, you know, give their interpretation of maybe the same emotion, and it's really, that can be well, quite amusing and also enlightening when you get a group of people, you know, actually acting or using their bodies to express something. Yeah.
Yeah, just get over that little bit of hesitation a lot of people have, and you break into this whole new arena of expression.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gail. Claire, I think you were going to say something.
Yes, me too. I like being intentional when I speak or when I use the smile, because I think it's very contagious. Or even with mask, yes, you can notice the eyes, that they're laughing. And so I intentionally changed my wording. I like to use good words to communicate because they make me feel very good myself, but I can also transmit to others. And as by nature, I'm very optimistic. I intentionally chose to, I know that every behavior has an impact and influences, so I choose to influence in a positive way. And that's way of being. Actually, I see that I can offer things, but I can receive many things back, from the others. And this is amazing. And as a last thing, I use a wording, for example, how are you, beautiful creator? Also people. So I don't want to do discounts on the words, but to honor the human nature and our human beings. And I think that, and I see it. It's beautiful. They did that to me, and I felt the sense. So I like doing to others too.
Yeah. When you use the word influence, I was thinking about, the classic influencing techniques, if you're learning how to influence others so you can get what you want or what you need, or to shift thinking in people. We need to think about how we're, not just what we're doing or how we're encouraging other people, but the attitude that we have. If we go in and we're thinking, oh, they're never going to do it, of course that will convey a lot as well. So I think that's what you're speaking to.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Claire.
Thank you.
Just adding to that, where is it that we're talking from or acting from? So is it because we're in judgment and so we're trying to change them, or is it because we're a stand for something and we're like moving from that place? Because I think those contagions, even if we're smiling from both, you can feel the difference of those things. And I think the other thing I wanted to add was that sometimes just articulating, you know, like if something's not, the emotional contagion is not great, just saying like, it feels like there's a lot of fear here or negativity here. Can we talk about something else? Or like, let's shift the space. So like just even just naming it to be able to move it sometimes is a simple way to change the space.
Yeah. I think that's a signal to talk about what we do when we don't want to be infected by our, you know, the contagions around us. And I've chosen to use the word vaccine. I know it's a little edgy for today, but that's okay. How do we protect ourselves from, you know, you walk into an environment maybe where people are going to be grouchy or negative or something. How do we protect ourselves from that? Or how do we make sure that we're not, you know, picking that up? Because we will. It's natural. It's human nature. We are empathic people, and we're likely to feel for them and possibly even mimic them accidentally. So here are just a few things, because you probably know a situation you've been in where there was some negativity and you can block that out, but it takes energy and it takes resilience and it takes really building up your capacity. So, you know, your prefrontal cortex does a lot of this overriding of emotions and automatic things, automatic brain responses, and you'll need to have enough energy, enough prefrontal cortex capacity and resilience to overcome the automatic reactions that will happen. And it is possible. One of the things I loved about the train video, the laughing man on the train, is there were so many people who were trying to do this. They were trying to not laugh. You saw them like, this man is crazy. I don't, you know, and they didn't have enough energy, fortunately, because I think it brought them joy. But in other situations, we may, you know, in the opposite situation, we might have the same thing where we don't have enough energy to overcome the negativity that's around us. I hope I'm making sense. But it takes resilience and a strength of our brain and prefrontal cortex in particular, which is not the strongest part of our brain, in order to overcome the bombardment of feelings from others around us. So increasing resilience is one thing you can do. Choosing where to put your attention, you know, if we watch news all the time or keep, you know, focused on the social media where there's a lot of ranting happening, you know, it's just infectious, and we pick that up and, you know, we take it to whoever we talk to next. And then there's also the idea of containing your own body language. So if you're, you know, starting to mimic someone else, like how do you not do that? How do you pay attention to what your body is doing in response to others? And again, on the train, they were trying to do that and they just lost it, of course, but if it were negative, you'd want to try harder. And notice what you mimic. You know, that we have habits. I believe we have emotional habits. And next time in the next webinar, we'll be talking about emotional addictions, one of my favorite topics. We have habits of how we feel. We can go into grumpy, and that might be a sort of default. We can change that over time if we choose to, or we might have certain, you know, and we might have certain things that we mimic. So this is just about consciousness and paying attention and building your capacity to orient yourself the way you want to. Any thoughts about that?
Maybe it's dancing in the moment, containing others' body language. If you see a person who is happy, you can try to be in the same mood. I compare it to dance tango. The dance. So if you are together with another person, you have to interpret what you hear from the movements. I think it can be the same way in a behavior. You can make it happy, or you can make it sad, or what it is.
Yeah, if we're conscious about it, yeah, because there's all this unconscious thing that goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deirdre, was that a hands up?
No. Yeah. I actually think I woke up with a hangover from something like this morning, because I had a rather intense session with someone last night. And she's absolutely lovely human being, but there is just no end of things that are wrong in her world.
Yeah.
And no matter how you try to direct and keep the attention and keep the positivity and keep going forward and so on, it's like, you've had a bloodletting or something. I woke up with a headache from it this morning. I'm thinking, yeah, I probably need to do some weightlifting with my prefrontal cortex then. I don't know what to do in this.
Yeah, but it takes practice. And it might also, I don't know if that's a client of yours, you can't actually, well, you probably wouldn't want to ask them to not say those kind of things. But if it was a friend, you might just say, I can only take so much of this.
No, it was a full-on client session last night. But yeah, it's like these kind of unwanted emotions come on different levels, and from a lot of people it's okay, and you've got the kind of resources to not absorb them, but some of them it's like they have this extra long kind of tentacle or something, and yeah, as you say,
get us. Yeah, great.
The other thing I notice is that a lot of the leadership training which has been given which is given in organizations is about being present, being very mindful, and being authentic. And the dynamic that creates it makes it harder to distance yourself because you're 100% there, you're 100% engaged. So then to kind of remind yourself to have that protective layer and keep your emotions preserved or looked after is harder.
Harder if you're intent on staying positive.
Not just, yes, intent on staying positive, but also kind of wanting to be fully present and fully engaged in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, Rashmi, thanks for saying that. So I'm going to say a few words about our leadership program and where we come from, because it's along those lines of what you were just talking about. So I just take that as a lead in. We have a brain-based leadership program, which is a lot about maintaining positivity and psychological safety in an organization. We start with this program called Rewired to Relate. It's a 5-week virtual program, and it's brain training for working well with others. It's kind of like, what did you say, Deirdre? It's like, having a little workout for your prefrontal cortex. It's kind of what that is. And how do you be conscious and intentional about the energy, the emotions that you portray, and what others portray as well? And as a team member, this program is for anyone, so it's not just for leaders. But as a team member or a leader or a coach, how do you be conscious about what emotions are going on and why they're happening? Like, what kind of needs do people have that are leading to these emotions? And you might be able to speak to them in a work setting or even a friendship setting, and possibly even in a coach-client setting. There's a lot of tools that are taught in there for coaches to use as well. So it really is about managing your emotional brain so that your prefrontal cortex can make more choices, keep the emotional brain at bay, or at least not in charge. Your emotional brain in charge doesn't create a pretty picture because you get reactive and, not that emotions are bad. You just want to have your prefrontal cortex, this mindful mind, in charge so you can make more conscious choices. Really quickly, this program is, we try to create learning in a number of different ways. All of the content is online, and we have people absorb it in a self-paced way, but we always use social learning. We insist on social learning. Not all organizations will comply, but we really insist because that's where people say they get the most learning. So you take some information in an online setting, and then you have a learning group where you've practiced some things, you've done some exercises, and you work with your social learning group to, I don't mean the social learning group, you work with your learning group who's in the program as well, and have these conversations. And it's through the conversations that a lot of the learning happens. Those learning groups also keep each other honest and keep people on track. But here's what I really want to share with you in the spirit of contagious emotions. We just finished our first public offering, or open enrollment offering of Rewired to Relate last week. And here are some things that I heard from people. I was absolutely over the moon by these. So And things like, I've been teaching emotional intelligence for years, but in Rewired to Relate, I have taken my personal experience of emotional intelligence to a new level. Rewired to Relate is a game changer that actually came from another source, not last week. And this program applies neuroscience and makes it a real experience. Super pleased that that was the feedback we got from people. And that's the experience that they're having. Yay, really thrilled about that. We have more programs coming up next year in 2021. Frode, I believe, is going to put a link in the chat box if you want to check that out. We've got one starting in February and one starting in late April or May. I think it's May. 5-week program. Flexible timing. We have one launch webinar, which is a fixed time. Everything else is flexible timing. So if you're interested in that, do let us know. And I'd love it if anybody has any questions or thoughts about today's webinar, or anything you'd like to say or contribute, as we have a few minutes left in our hour. Thoughts, questions, comments? Anybody who wants to say hi? I see you over there, Olivia. I haven't heard from you today. You want to at least say hello?
Hello.
I love your background.
Recognize it.
Yes, of course.
And I shared something on the chat box, a YouTube video about the water, the emotions, how they affect to the water. Some of you may have known the previous, but emotions affect even the water in a different way. Since humans are something like 70% of water, we are all affected with every emotion.
Okay, so that's the link that you left, is for that.
Yeah.
About the, yeah. Okay, great.
There are other links maybe, but I just found some quick video to share about that.
Okay, good. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Anything anybody would like to share? I want to thank you all for coming. It's always nice to have new people and some repeat people, so it feels like a nice community here. Really
Thank you for the laugh.
You're welcome.
By the way, I looked up the laughing man on Google, and I saw the very slot machine that I remember as a child in a fun fair. So it's on there.
The Laughing Man. Just look up the Laughing Man. I'll have to check that out.
Look up the Laughing Man, put a penny in the slot, and this puppet will laugh, and you can't but not laugh.
Great.
So thank you for reminding me about that little bit of a memory from childhood.
You're welcome. I hope it brought back lots of warmth and joy. I'm sure it did.
Laughing reminds me some other thing, a very well-known thing. It is not just one person laughing. It is something as a few people looking to specific point, and it says where these guys looking, and they are looking at nowhere. Everyone wonders where they look. It is a very quite pranking thing. You can find many videos about that.
Okay.
They are just affecting people, and they are looking where they are looking, and they are looking nowhere, just on the same direction but nowhere.
Okay. Let's look for that.
I felt. Sorry, Laurie.
Claire, go.
I wanted to say that I felt really related to all of you, although I had the strictly connection with Jite and Koskal in the room. But for this hour that I haven't sensed it, I have the feeling that time flies, actually, it flows. And I felt related, and thank you so much about that.
You're so welcome. Thanks.
And I'm going to smile at everybody with my mask on. Thank you, Carol.
I'm going to try that as well. Thanks, everyone. Have fun with the emotions and all their contagiousness.
Thank you very much, Laurie. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Laurie.
Bye. Welcome.